The Big Footy Port Adelaide podcast is proudly sponsored by New Vision.
My team, kinda power. I love the power. I love the power.
Hi everyone, I am Macca 19 and this is the Big Footy Port Adelaide podcast coming to you live once again on Port Fan Radio, a fan-driven online radio station all about the Port Adelaide Footy Club. Once again, I'm delighted to be in the presence of Fishing Rick. How are you, mate?
So you should be, Macca. You should be delighted. I'm very ashamed tonight, Macca. I have.
Why is that?
I'm a bad boy.
Why is that?
I picked Hawthorn.
So did I. That's okay.
I'm very embarrassed. It's just not.
So you should be.
It's not loyal of me. And then at the game,
It's just not on, Rick.
I got drunk. I was bloody half tanked. And,
I can tell by the 76 text messages that you sent me.
wasn't me that was harassing Clarko, was it?
Yeah, it could well have been.
I couldn't remember what I was doing in the end, but had a good time in the lounge with all those Hawthorn supporters.
That's good. And look, once again, back on the podcast for the first time this year, we are speaking with MrSpeaker.
G'day guys. I have to admit I tipped Port, not Hawthorn, so I've got one up on both of you.
Oh, smart ass, eh?
Definitely.
Don't let him back on.
That's it. Well, look, let's get straight into it and talk about our love and hate. One thing we loved, one thing we hated in and around Port Adelaide this week. Rick, mate, I will start with you.
You can start with me. That's fine. I'm a bit prophetic, Macca. I called the midfield to dominate, to create space, and therefore will create a better forward line for us. And the midfield delivered without two of our prime moving midfielders. I mean, how awesome was the midfield on Saturday night?
Incredible. Just about as good as I've ever seen it. And without our two best clearance winning midfielders, I'm still speechless. I can't explain that first quarter. It was amazing.
Can I actually quote you? You said something which it made me laugh, which isn't the first time. Not very often, but it isn't the first time.
Thanks very much.
That was football porn.
It was. It was Port Adelaide porn right there.
It was. I agree with you. It was just magnificent, and the crowd was in a frenzy.
Yeah. When Hammer kicked that goal, I can't even describe the scenes. It was an orgy of celebration. It was crazy.
Yeah, just about.
Well, where were you boys sitting?
I was in my normal spot in Bay 336, centre wing of the Black Diamond area, so...
Is that the
Not
Eastern
bad.
Stand?
Yeah.
Yep.
My old man got locker room tickets, so we were behind the goals in the locker room area. And it was nuts.
Partying with Janus?
Didn't see Janus, no.
Didn't see
Janus?
Yep.
Nope.
Yeah, well, I was in the Western Stand, so we were spread around, and I've got to say the theme was consistent. It was just mental in the Western Stand as well. It was just, that first quarter, the midfield, Chad Wingard was amazing in that first quarter. That's what I was hoping that we'd see from Chad, and it stood up. And I guess my hate, before we go on too long about it and steal all the thunder of the review, is the outrageous attempt of the SMA to block us off of the Oval, both AFL teams, from Wednesday onwards because of the soccer final. What's going on here? Isn't it footy season at Adelaide Oval?
I would have thought so.
Yeah, me too. Strange decision. I guess I can understand it from a ground point of view, but I don't know. I don't like it.
Hasn't everyone just jumped off?
Find somewhere else to play, Adelaide, you know.
That's kind of stupid, though, because they scheduled a SANFL game there on the Friday night anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Surely the AFL takes priority over a pretty crappy SANFL game.
That's it.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem right. And I can see why the clubs are a bit peeved. Or are we being a little bit precious? Can the boys just train at Alberton and be fine, just coming to the game on on Sunday, and we should just be happy that Adelaide United are in the finals and playing at Adelaide Oval.
No idea.
Pass. Come on,
I have no care for Adelaide United at all.
Yeah,
well, I thought everyone jumped off the bandwagon.
Well, I was never on it, I can tell you that.
All right, next.
That's it. Next, right, well, I'll get to one tweet first before I ask your love and hate, Mr. Speaker, and that's a tweet from Chris Hale, who says, will Macca get the podcast up on both feeds before he wakes up in the morning? And yes, I will try my hardest to remember to put them on both feeds this week for the first time in about 5 weeks.
That is.
Exactly. Thank you, Mr. Chris. That's I'll definitely try my hardest to remember. So, Mr. Speaker, what was your love and hate this week, mate?
Right. My love for the week was Paddy Ryder. Well, Paddy Ryder with Matthew Lobie, I guess. Before the game, while you were being very negative, I have to say, Macca, I thought that Lobie and Ryder were going to be a very, very handy thing for us, and I think, Ryder taking a bit of pressure off Schultz up forward and, having Ryder to chop out Lobie in the ruck, it's just a huge addition to our team, and I think it was probably a pretty important part of us winning.
Yeah.
How good was?
Yeah, we got our first taste of the Lobie Ryder partnership, and it tasted pretty good, I think.
Yeah,
forward marks were amazing.
Yeah, I can't remember who it was in front of, but the one that he passed off to Polak, that was just beautiful play.
Yeah. No, that's right. And your hate?
And my hate, I'll have to probably pick two here. First one, which is probably more relevant to the game itself, would be Brian Taylor using the word dynamic about 3 times in 5 minutes. It was just very odd. I don't know. He's a strange unit. The other half of my hate for the week is John Ralph immediately tarnishing the club and its members. I don't want to talk any more about it, to be honest. But yeah, just immediately calling the 3 drunks Port members. I just thought it was pretty poor.
Well, what about Robbo? Didn't he call the whole city morons?
Yeah.
Yep.
He softed out of that one afterwards and said, "Oh no, I was just talking about the idiots." I don't know about that.
Sure. It's a bit, we have to give Robbo a bit of leniency though, because he has been on the Port-loving bandwagon for a while.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true. It is. That's it. Well, look, my love this week has got to be the fact that we held on against a rampaging, fast-finishing premiership winner in that last quarter. You'd be forgiven for Port fans thinking we'd probably end up losing that, to be honest. It almost seemed inevitable at times where it just seemed like every tap, every knock, every kick went to a Hawks player. We were absolutely dead on our feet. So to hold on despite all of that was, I thought, fantastic. And, to win 2 close ones in a row is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Can't complain.
Spot on.
And what was your, with the Tribey show, did you predict 3 and 2? Do you remember?
I think I predicted 2 and 3.
2 and 3. Tribey was 3 and 2, and I was
I think so.
I was 4 and 1.
Yep.
Yeah. But
look, I'm pretty happy right now. You'd take this 2-0, 2
I
each.
would. Are you
Pretty happy?
I've got a question for you about that though, Macca. You've got it on. It's one of my list of questions actually, so I'll just bring it up now. Are we being too respectful to the opposition? So are we planting a seed? We're 58 points up, and the players are almost trained now to believe that Hawthorn's such a good side that they're going to come back. They're going to come back. So when Hawthorn kicks a couple of goals, have we sort of created this self-fulfilling prophecy that the team starts believing, well, they're such a good side because they're going to come back? So do we need maybe a little bit more arrogance with the messages that are coming out in the media? And I know our club's not the only one that sort of says that message. I'm pretty sure I heard Phil Walsh come out and say the same thing today on radio as well. And it just makes me think, do we need a little bit more arrogance and back our players in? And you know what? So what? We're 58 points up. We're good enough. We're going to hold them off. And maybe the players might do so accordingly.
Yeah, I kind of agree, but I don't think it really applies to this particular game because I think most of the issue in regards to our last half, and we'll no doubt talk about it at length a bit later on, but I thought it was more of a fatigue issue as opposed to more of a respect for the opponent. We know they're going to come back, and then a nerves issue. I know some people on the forum have said it looked like we started to second guess ourselves, and even the coaches said that as well. Which I guess you got to believe them, but for me it seemed more of a fatigue issue because we had so many players in that last quarter that just could barely move, they could barely run, and I'm talking about Polek, Matty White, Wingard, Hartlett. They were really struggling.
Yeah, and I think it's an important distinction to make because a couple of people have said, oh, maybe it's a fitness issue. I think there's definitely a difference between fitness and fatigue. Because, most teams after the first 3 games we've had and then a frantic sort of 3 quarters before in this game, it'd be ridiculous for us to not be kind of extremely tired.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it wasn't necessarily just the players. I know come the last quarter, I could hardly walk too.
Yeah. Was that one because of fatigue or maybe something else?
It was fatigue. So I had to throw that in.
That's all right. Well, look, my hate this week is to do with the Maggies, and it's their inability to deal with strong defensive pressure. And I think we saw it a few times last year, especially in finals against Norwood. And it doesn't seem to have changed too much this year. I think our young team just can't handle our ball carriers being closed down quickly and put under intense pressure. They look $1 million when they're allowed to dictate, the pace of the game, which they can do against most of the other SANFL clubs, but particularly against Norwood and a couple of other teams, we just can't find a way to deal with it when we're under the pump. And I think a few players got found out a little bit on the weekend.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's fair enough, and it's kind of in line, I suppose, with our AFL side. It's kind of similar the way Norwood and Sydney play. I think both teams just got hammered with that kind of gameplay. So yeah.
Yep. What do you think, Rick?
I don't want to say too much. I want to wait till we actually review the game.
Okay.
I don't want to spoil it. But yeah, I agree. I thought we would have, after the start, we would have kicked on and dominated Norwood, and we didn't seem to handle the pressure at all. So I agree with you.
That's it. Well, look, before we talk about the review of the AFL game, we might as well have a chat about the incident after the game, which has been spoken about at length in the media today and on Sunday, where Alistair Clarkson and an alleged attendant of the game clashed as Clarko was walking back to his hotel. Seems that he chose to walk back instead of catching the team bus and was harassed by a couple of morons for a few hundred metres before one of them decided to get out his phone and start filming himself acting like a moron. And obviously Clarko snapped and through what some people are calling a push, others are calling a punch. It was sort of a little bit in between. And I think there's probably 2 issues here. And one is that you just shouldn't act like a dickhead. And 2 is that violence shouldn't be the response to dickheads in this situation either.
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly what I think. I don't know. I don't know why the coaches, umpires are walking back without any sort of security at sort of midnight with probably drunks around in the city. I think that's pretty poor form from the AFL. It's always annoying to hear about supporters from your own club acting like dickheads, especially in such a public way.
Apparently they weren't members though, so let's remember.
No, they were not members,
no.
So that's decent. Yeah, and then I don't know. I've been pretty vocal about it on the forums. Violence is not the answer. So I don't know. I think everyone involved has a part to play in that problem. So yeah.
So
it's poor.
I think it's poor form on a few levels here. I just read on Facebook just before that I think the CEO of the Coaches Association, Brayshaw, was talking to Bevan on ABC radio, and he said that Clarko was entitled to do that. So if I come home from a hard day at work and my wife decides to give me grief for not doing the housework like I promised and gets comes up to me and starts really getting stuck into me, it's all right for me to slap her in the face, is it? Obviously not. Same goes for a kid, or if Mr. Speaker, I haven't met you before, you come up to me after the game and it's like, if at Hawthorn, man, yeah, come on, and what, I'm allowed to punch you in the face too, am I? I think it's horrendous. I mean, and it actually concerns me that, so many people think that a violent response to something that is agitating is acceptable, and it's not acceptable. And the person's behaviour in harassing Clarkson isn't acceptable either. I'm not condoning what they've done. Give them a bit of stick if they want for a couple of seconds and then piss off, but don't chase him and harass the poor guy. But from what I read, he chose to walk back to the hotel. We could have taken the bus, but it was his choice to walk back. And it's just, I'm not a violent person. I don't believe in violence for a resolution unless it is completely in self-defence. And look, the guy was annoying, but from what I could see on the footage, and I've only seen limited parts of it, he wasn't acting in a violent manner towards Clarkson, and I can't believe that he's being defended in AFL circles, and it's disgraceful that they're wiping their hands of it. What did Brian Lake get when he choked that player on the footy field?
Yeah. 4 weeks.
2 weeks, then?
What, 2? I don't know. Something fairly insignificant.
So, how come Brian Lake got punished for something and Clarkson's entitled to do what he did?
Yeah, I'm right with you on that one. I thought it was a very, very irresponsible comment from Brayshaw. I don't even know who that is. Just read about him today. I just think it's a very, very disappointing thing that the message going out from the AFL and the coaches and the media is that, if someone's annoying you, it's fine to, have a swing at them. It's just absolutely not the way that you do things. I mean, he had several other options aside from punching or pushing or whatever you want to call it. But, it's been very oddly handled, in my opinion.
Where's the other Hawthorn representatives that were with him? Why didn't they walk up to this guy and take him away from Clarkson and say, come on, guys, leave him alone?
Well, you'd think a quick F-off, mate, would have, solved the issue.
Yeah, that's right.
That's probably all that was needed.
Well, how does Andrew Moore feel about now? He's rubbed out for 3 games for gently pushing an umpire in an example of what was happening on the field. And Alistair Clarkson punches or forcefully pushes someone, and he's allowed to. The hypocrisy is just ridiculous.
Well, just imagine after the showdown this week, if God forbid, Port Adelaide lose, and a few Crow supporters decide to go up, to a few Port fans and get in their face what, is apparently the appropriate response is to punch someone. I mean, that would just be an absolute farce.
Absolutely.
I think everyone can agree that. The message being sent out by the AFL is just not in line with values. I think.
What's going on here? Who's playing with their mic?
I don't know.
Are
you still there, Mr. Speaker?
Yeah.
Yep, there you are. That's good.
Was I the only one that heard that?
No, I heard it as well. That's all right.
Okay. I might have a dodgy internet connection over there.
I don't know. It sounded like Tribey sandpaper thing was coming back again.
Doesn't matter. That's all right. We'll move on. And Rick, do you want to have your next question in the Who Am I question?
Who am I?
Yes.
Can we put a sponsor plug to it? See, New Vision is paying for it. The New Vision, Who
Yes.
Am I? All right, cool.
Yep.
Bananas. So Skype in to Macca. The next clue is, the first one was 1966. The second clue, this person kicked in their career between 20 and 200 goals. There you go. So they kicked a few
That's
goals.
quite a large range there, Rick.
All right. 20 and 100. Can't make it too easy. I mean,
True.
Come on. So we'll get one question in or one person in. Skype. I reckon, who reckons that Macca should actually let the person answering the question call in instead of just typing it in? I think they should be allowed to call in and say it. Don't be
Well, it's possible.
Mr. Speaker.
All right. Well, we've got a caller. We might as well answer now. Our first live caller. A big welcome, Phil. How you going?
Good, mate. Yourself?
Good, good.
Cool. Just going to have a punt.
Yep.
Roger Delaney. Roger Delaney.
Rick? Rick, you there?
You put me on hold.
Yeah.
No, did I?
What are you doing?
Hold on. Let me try this again. This is
Try
why we
it
should
again.
take live calls, mate.
That's it. This is all right.
Here we go. We've got a response here from Phil. Do you want to say
Phil,
it again, mate?
Yes. Yeah, mate. Is it Roger Delaney?
Roger Delaney, Roger the Dodger. No, it isn't, Phil.
Oh.
But thank you very much.
No worries, mate.
We'll speak to you
Too
next
easy.
time.
Thanks for calling
Cheers,
in.
mate.
What'd you do, Macca? Hang up on us?
I don't know. I think I did. This is live radio
Live
at its
radio.
absolute peak right here, mate.
That's it. No, it isn't Roger Delaney.
Oh, this is wonderful.
And who did we
So
have
it's not
last
Roger
week?
Delaney. Tim Ginniver was the pick last week, so it's not Timmy and it's not Roger.
Laughing. All right. So we'll have to have another clue for next Thursday. But I'll have to make. Already got one lined up. So it's getting exciting now.
Well, look, before I make more of a fool of this podcast, let's move on and start talking about the review. And look, it was talked up all pre-season as the showcase game of the year for Port Adelaide. You know, playing on Anzac Day for the first time on a Saturday night against the Premier. And the game, the atmosphere, I think the experience didn't disappoint at all. With Port coming away with a fantastic 8-point victory. Schultz was the star again up forward with 5 goals. Look, it was certainly a game of two halves, so let's start by talking about what was just an incredible and almost unbelievable first half from Port Adelaide.
It was amazing.
I don't think there would have been a Port supporter at the ground that really expected us to be 8 goals up a quarter time.
No. So how did you see it start out, Mr. Speaker?
Oh, I don't know. It's hard to describe. It was just unbelievable. I mean, who would have thought we were going to Richmond them, pretty much? I don't know. I just can't describe it. It was amazing.
We sort of had him in a tiz from the start, didn't we? We, if I remember rightly, before my brain sort of faded out in the second half, we started with Ryder in the ruck to start with. Did he take the first bounce?
He did, I think.
Yeah. So we started with Ryder and then just kept switching between Ryder and Lobe, between full forward and ruck, and our centre line players, Hartlett, I thought provided great grunt in the middle. As I said earlier, Chad Wingard was just amazing. He was a clearance machine in that first quarter and really showed that his knee was up to scratch and he was back to his best. And what it just showed is by winning the clearances, though, how much more energetic we looked as a footy team. The players were running forward with the ball, winning the clearance, and then obviously getting onto it, and it made such a difference. And as you guys said earlier, having Lobe come back into the side and seeing a taste of both Ryder and Lobe into the mix was just amazing. It sort of even Westhoff looked like he had a bit more buzz about him this week, and it was the movement, the transition was fantastic, and we were just all over Hawthorn. And then we had the advantage of Brian Lake going off injured.
Yeah. And we certainly exploited that, as Kenny Hinkley said after the game. We threw Ryder pretty deep forward, and he had a big influence in that first quarter. But look, to do what we did against Richmond in that elimination final last year was brilliant. But that was against a team that had won 10 straight. They had a massive game the week before. They were running on fumes basically, and this was against a Hawthorn midfield that was absolutely full of stars. Lewis, Hodge, Mitchell. They're all Australians, 3-time premiership players. They haven't been dominated like that in years, probably a decade. That's right up there with the best quarters of footy I've ever seen Port Adelaide play.
And what about Kane Corns' job in the first half on Kane Mitchell? That was my tip. Get Corns to blanket Mitchell out of the game. He seems to be their real key. And
he did.
didn't he just put the guy out from being on fire.
Yeah, he just killed him pretty much.
I think he had one handball at quarter time and 3 kicks and 1 handball at half time. So, yeah, he just absolutely destroyed him.
Yep.
Yeah. So, that was a fantastic start, and it was good to see Jay Schultz back. I thought last home game against Sydney didn't seem to be kicking through the ball as confidently as he normally does, but geez, he had his sharpshooting eye on Saturday night, didn't he?
He did. To kick that early goal from the boundary, you just felt that gave him and also the team a lot of confidence, I think, because, I mean, you look at Wingard's first goal, and that was one of the goals of the year, and then Schultz kicks one from the pocket. Then Westhoff, swings around on his right boot from 50 and kicks a goal, and then Hammer kicks just the most ridiculous goal I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
From what should now be known as the Hamish Hartlett pocket, really.
Yeah, I thought that was almost Wanganeen-like from the 2004 prelim, that goal. It was just amazing.
Yeah. Well, at least he was actually inside the boundary line. So he was in the field of play. So that's a bonus. It was a legitimate goal.
Yeah, that's true.
So look, why did this happen? Why did we get such a huge start on Hawthorn?
Well, this is the $1 million question.
Do you think they were Do you think they came expecting to dominate us, or were maybe a little bit arrogant in that first quarter?
To be honest, the only physical change that I could observe was having Wingard in the middle. I mean, I don't know what else you can put it down to. I mean, that sounds a bit strange to say that Wingard in the middle makes us an 8-goal first quarter team against last year's premiers, but that's the only quantifiable difference from my point of view.
And Lobe back.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Lobe was back as well. But yeah, I mean, look, and Wingard's sort of been protected from the midfield battle a fair bit this year compared to previous years. So, compared to previous years because of his knee injury. He was influential, as I said earlier, around the pack contested situation. I don't know. I just think the boys were really up. I think they really lifted for the big game, the Anzac Day game. I think the Sydney game was the anomaly because they came out flat. So as we said in that review, I feel like they came out just sort of expecting it to be done and somebody was just going to do it, and kept waiting for that moment. But obviously that didn't happen, and obviously a few home truths were issued and by Hinkley and the leadership group, and they came out and blasted like a team. And I just think our team play was just superior to Hawthorn's in the first half.
Yeah, I really just think it was a matter of us firing on all cylinders. I don't know, just everything seemed to fit together perfectly.
I mean, they just had no response to our pace. Our contested ball winning ability was outstanding, and to think we could dominate their midfield in such a way without the clearance winning strengths of Ollie and Robbie, I mean, you just wouldn't have even dreamed about that sort of thing happening.
Yeah, I think our bowl use early was probably a big part of the start that we had. I reckon I looked at the disposal efficiency with sort of 5 minutes left in the first quarter, and we were still going at 89% compared to their 64 or something. So everything went right, I think.
Yeah. Well, look, let's talk about the second half. We started to visibly tire, I thought, halfway through the third quarter, and Hawthorn's pace started to become a bit of an issue with Smith and Hill in particular starting to get more of the ball. And I thought our forward line's influence started to wane a little bit, and Hawthorn started to really pump it inside 50 with regularity. And I think Polek's miss on the 3/4 time siren, I mean, I thought that might have been a moment that could have broken Hawthorn's back, and we may not have seen that sort of comeback. But in the end, I think it gave them a bit of a sniff.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. I probably would have liked to see Brendan Archie sub a bit earlier. I mean, not that we know if he's a sure thing to be an absolute gun or anything, but you could tell reasonably early on that Polek was labouring, White was labouring, Hartlett looked absolutely destroyed. Just too many people that couldn't run. I think I don't know. Some people have said that Archie's a bit slow, but he looks pretty quick to me. So I would have thought it would have been good to have him in a bit earlier. So.
Well, I mean, obviously the Etihad surface and the game against North Melbourne, which was brutal, was going to take an effect. And I think this might be the modern game of football where you've really got two different styles, don't you? You've got the possession game plan that we played against Freo and almost executed perfectly. And then you've got this wham, bam, smash you, just run at all costs game style. And I don't think we've found the perfect balance yet, because the first half we just went the wham bam and really had Hawthorn on the ropes, and they're almost doing the old rope-a-dope, taking the punches, waiting for us to tire out. But I'm sure they weren't going to let us get to 58 points in front. But we just didn't have that contested possession game plan, maybe to let the boys recover during those periods of dominance. So we just went all out, bang, smash, let's get into it. And yeah, we just really hit the wall. And it seems to be a trend. It's happened a couple of times now. And coincidentally, it happened with the Freo Sydney game at the same time as we were playing.
Yeah.
Yep, very true.
So it must be more than a coincidence that seems to be a trend. So I think that's something the coaches will probably work on, and we've seen it spoken about in the past. But I think the one comment that I made today is I really hope that we can keep Matthew Nicks at all costs. And I know Nicks just tweeted in about Alipate and Macca, you had him best on ground. But our defensive unit all year has probably been the shining light and stood up in all the games. And Matthew Nicks has got to take some credit for that, I would imagine. He's really got those boys down there on song and playing together. And our defensive setup again, I thought was fantastic.
Yeah, our defence has been pretty amazing this year. I think. What did Hawthorn have? They had like 25 points at half time, 57 at 3/4 time. That just doesn't really happen to them. And I mean, even though it got close at the end, keeping them to 91 points for a game, that's impressive. They're a high scoring team. Like, I'm pretty sure they were by quite a long stretch the highest scoring team last year. So yeah, it really is a good thing to have our defense up and running like that. They mold in really well together, and sort of the intercept spoils and the blocking of leads and just all of the team defense stuff that you want. It's just working really well.
Well, what about that inside 50 differential? Is it a concern that we leak so many inside 50s?
No, not for me. I don't think so. I think on its own, you think, gosh, how did Hawthorn maybe lose the game when they had so many inside 50s? But I mean, you look at them in the last quarter when they had something like 28-5 inside 50s, and a lot of them were pretty messy, long bombs to no one, and we just sort of, were just able to shut them down pretty quick. And there was a period there where I think Taylor Duray for Hawthorn booted it inside 50 about 4 times in 20 seconds, all of them down the throat of a Port player, and we just kicked it straight back to him again. So I was like, what's going on here? But I don't think... I think there was something like 10 or 12 up at 3/4 time. In the end, they were just peppering the 50 in the last quarter. So in isolation, I don't think it really means all that much.
Yeah, I have to agree with that.
And we were still in front with a lot of the key stats, talking about tackles and clearances and contested possessions, those sort of things. We still won those stats. So.
Which is a good thing. And I mean, we... was it the Freo game? We had a bucket load more inside 50s, but lost.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just didn't want to confuse it with the Sydney game. So I think maybe the inside 50 statistics becoming a little bit misleading compared to what it used to be. Maybe it's the quality of inside 50s that you get these days.
Yeah, actually, I think that's
and
probably...
I don't think Hawthorn's quality was there.
Yeah, that would be the main difference for mine. We had 43 inside 50s and 24 scoring shots. I mean, I don't have exact stats on that, but that sounds like really, really good conversion.
And Nick just tweeted in wanting to know about what about our ground ball gets. Would Walshy have been happy with our? Oh, sorry, he doesn't coach us anymore, does he?
No,
But what about the other one? It's a new one. I don't think it's been recorded before, but I don't get the Sunday Mail, and I've made reference to it previously. Is the meters gained? All 4 games we've been on the negative side of the differential with the meters gains. Do we take anything out of that?
not really.
Not really, because Hawthorn had 60 odd more disposals than us, so of course they're going to have more metres gained.
Yeah.
Just by a sheer fact that they had so much more of the ball.
Yeah.
But is it interesting that we've been dominated in that aspect of the game, all 4 games? We haven't actually won that stat.
I think that probably just says that maybe it is an insignificant stat. I mean, like, to get beaten by 48 points and we lose the meters game, what's really the difference?
Well, the way
is it meters? What is it? Meters gained per disposal or per run, or what does it mean?
I don't know either. So
is it kick length? Is it disposal length? I mean,
I think
it could be anything.
I think it's the meters running the ball going forward.
Yeah, I think it's probably.
Well, they had 14 bounces and we had 2, so they obviously were running it more than what we were.
Is there any stat guru listening that might be able to answer this for us? Because I'd like to know, because I guess my logic is, to me, there seems to be a trend that perhaps the teams that are playing us are setting up deeper, enabling them to get extra meterage gains on us, and maybe they're setting up deeper intentionally, trying to block up our forward space. So they're relying on us playing this attacking game style and getting the ball in quick and deep. So they're having the excess numbers there, allowing them to then rebound it out. That's how I see it, and maybe that's why we've sort of had that sluggish start to the year, sort of adjusting to that different set in relation to the oppositions and how they're setting up to us.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the last quarter. I guess it was a bit of squeaky bum time there for a while, to quote Sir Alex Ferguson. But I mean, were you really that concerned that we might have lost that game?
No.
Nah.
Did you guys honestly think that you were going to lose?
I thought we did enough in the first 15 minutes of that quarter just to hold them off. I think if Hawthorn had have kicked maybe 1 or 2 more goals, heading into the last sort of 5 or 6 minutes, we could have been in real trouble. But I think we did enough just to sort of kill the ball and kill their possession a bit in the first sort of 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Is that where we should have played the possession game plan a little bit more, or tried to?
I think we did try. We could have.
Yeah, I think we did try. I mean, it's something that I really noticed at the ground was that, you know, they were kicking it really deep into their forward line, and you know, we were taking marks or whatever, but we just couldn't get it out because Hawthorn was setting up so forward. I mean, they just had this wall of players across sort of like a 60-metre arc in their forward line that just became impossible to penetrate because you couldn't kick it long. And we tried that numerous times to kick it long, but you know, it was just going straight down their throats. And you try and kick it short, but you know, they had 12 players inside their forward 50 trying to block up space. So obviously we won the game. So whatever we did, it seemed to work. You know, there was probably a few nervous moments there, but I actually thought the way that we were able to kill that many forward attacks was fantastic.
Yeah, it's... I don't know, I thought we had great resilience to hold on. I wasn't really concerned, and, you know, Hawthorn's a great team and they were always going to fight back.
Mm. And in the end, look, I thought a lot of their goals in the last quarter were pretty arsey. I mean, you can probably say the same about ours in the first quarter, obviously, but... You know, Bruce runs, 4 people go up and the ball somehow drops to the back of the pack and Bruce runs into an open goal, and then Taylor Girard absolutely muffs a kick from 50, which looked like it was going to bounce anywhere, and it just happens to roll through the goals. And you could tell by his reaction that he didn't mean it, and you can tell at the ground that it was an absolute miss kick that just happened to go through the goals. But I guess we've been there before with Monfries, haven't we? So
Yeah. I mean, I think there was probably an element of luck in us winning because they kicked sort of 4 behinds. From memory, 2 of them were pretty easy shots running into an open goal from 40 metres out on not much of an angle. But I don't know, I guess that's just the way that football works.
So I heard some people, supporters, weren't happy with the umpiring in the last quarter. I was a bit not focusing on the umpires, so I didn't really pay attention. But what did you guys think? Were we hard done by?
I don't think so. I don't think it had any influence at all.
No?
No.
Yeah, I thought the umpires were reasonably good throughout the night. There weren't too many howlers, but yeah, I thought it wasn't too bad, to be honest.
The only one I didn't like was the Westhoff mark in the first quarter. I thought that was an obvious mark.
I thought that was a pretty obvious mark.
Didn't matter anyway.
That leads me to something that I did say on the forum, that Hawthorn's very, very often time wasting after free kicks and even a 50-metre penalty, sort of either handballing it back over the guy's head or blocking him so he can't get up to the point of the 50 that he's allowed to kick from. I notice it every time we play against them, and Hodge and Lewis are very big instigators of this. It really, really annoys me. I don't know if you guys noticed it as much as I did, but
I did notice it. There was another thing that they do, which my dad noticed and pointed out, I reckon, about 50 times during the game, is that when one of their players either takes a mark or gets a free kick, one of their teammates sort of stands next to the guy on the mark, and then they run the opposite way.
That's another one. I thought
and
that was
they do
actually
that
against the
every
rules.
single time.
Yeah.
Well, then we just need our coaches to bring it up in the media interviews, don't we? And say, the umpires need to look at that. That's just outrageous. You can't do that.
Yeah, well, like, on the one hand, it would be lovely if the umpires would look at that kind of thing. On the other hand, you don't really want coaches to be bitching about umpiring. I don't know. It's a tough one.
So,
well, look, I want to talk about Bobby Carlile's game a little bit because, as Nicholas Till mentioned, he kept Roughhead to 0 goals, which not many people have done in recent years. I think he's only had 4 goalless games in the last 2 seasons. And look, last week he had 28 disposals, 8 marks, 7 goals, 21 score involvements. On the weekend he had 4 kicks, no goals, 2 marks. And a lot of his disposals came when he was in the ruck or following the ball.
Alipate is a superstar. That's what he is.
He's a gun.
Almost turnaround of the century. He is a gun now, though. Seriously, magnificent performance. I mean, Roughhead would have been on the top of everyone's list of having to sort of curtail, and to get away with that sort of performance is amazing.
Yeah, I thought Alipate was our best on ground by a long, long way. He just absolutely killed him. I haven't seen somebody do that to Roughhead for quite a while.
Yeah. That's it. And look, we've only won 1 quarter in the second half in the 4 games we've played this year. Do you think this shows a bit of a lack of fitness, or is it just a bit of a coincidental stat?
Coincidental for mine.
Yeah, it's a bit too early for me too. I think with such a tough draw, it's really hard to gauge. We've had obviously fantastic opponents like we all have been discussing over the last few weeks. So I think if it continues on for another 4 weeks, well then I think there might be some issues that we might need to be worried about.
Yep.
But
that's a fair call. I think we'll know more after this week. If the Crows have a big finish against us this week and we look like we're running on the spot, then I think we'll know that maybe our fitness isn't at the level that it was this time last year, which I don't think is necessarily a problem because we probably peaked too early last year. It's going to be a bit different how things are run this year, I think.
It's amazing to think that they can actually play with the players' fitness with that much confidence to change the loading so they're going to be fitter at a particular point in time compared to a previous year or something. But if that's the case, I'd rather grind it out now and have the players peaking after round 8 or whatever through to the finals, rather than that mid-season slump, which can become quite a concern as you lead into finals.
Yep. That's it, mate. Your mate Jasper again was pretty special.
Superstar.
He's an absolute gun.
He absolutely, mate. He is just now consistency personified. I'm going to call out Crazy Big Al Macca because I get this bloody tweet or message or whatever about Jasper kicking out on the full. Can people please move on from the fact, Al, that he might make one or two skill error mistakes a game, because every player does it, Al, and we need to move on from this. Let's scapegoat Jasper Pittard every time he makes a mistake, Al, because he's gone beyond that, and his disposal when he doesn't make a mistake is fantastic, and his decision making is getting just as good and high up there. So I think people just need to move on a little bit. Alan?
Look, first podcast of this year, I said, Rick, you're going to love me, but I think Jasper Pittard's going to be All-Australian this year. And I have to say that Cole this early on is looking pretty good.
Absolutely. I agree with you completely. What do you reckon, Mr. Speaker?
Yeah, no, I don't know if you recall, but last year when I was on the podcast, I told you Jasper was my favourite player and you were a bit unhappy about it. But, yeah, I commented in a thread today saying that I thought Jasper Pittard at the moment is All-Australian. If you had to name a team now, he'd be in it. So, yeah, I'm a huge fan.
It's actually getting a bit of a joke now, Mr. Speaker. I think I'm going to have to maybe leave Jasper to the masses now, because he's becoming mainstream, and I'm going to have to pick up someone new. Might have to go get on the Brendan Archie. Porsche gave me that one, and I've always been a big supporter of Brendan, and maybe he needs my tyres pumping up him now, so everyone can get on board the arch.
Go and have a look at my signature on the forums, mate.
Stop copying me. Stop copying me.
I had it first.
Be a leader, not a follower. What's going on here? Outrageous.
Everyone that's following.
Look, guys, I think it's quite clear that Carl Amon Nation is about to begin.
Carl Amon Nation. That would be nice.
Get behind it. Get into it. Well, look, Aaron Young, he was another that had a ripper game. And look, Kenny sort of called him out at the end of the North Melbourne game and said, look, here's your chance with Ollie out for a little while. And you've got to say he delivered on the weekend.
Yes.
Yeah.
But has he had his breakout game, boys?
I thought he did last year, but there you go.
As long as he keeps playing consistent footy and locks himself into our 22, I don't really care if he has a breakout game. He's just going very well as he is. So.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Speaker, again, you're sort of stealing the words out of my mouth, you copycat, because I posted on Facebook saying, no, hasn't had his breakout game yet, but he has broken that barrier of the first 22, and I'm with you completely. I think he's really showing that he's got the goods now to really cement a spot on that side, and good luck to him, and it's been great. And I mean, his contested ball winning, his body strength is there now, isn't it? And he's got that great, he's almost not like Chris Judd, the player in skills, but he's got that Chris Judd shimmy about it where he can sort of shake the hips and lose the tackler.
Yeah, he's extremely strong through the core, even though he doesn't necessarily look at, like, if you just look at him, he doesn't look, like, huge, but he just has a crazy knack of getting out of tackles and getting a clean clearance.
So, a non-game related question for you boys.
Yep.
How did you find the crowd and the pre-game? And is there one thing that you would change at the moment, or are you happy as it is?
The crowd, I thought, was largely excellent. All of the Hawthorn supporters that I spoke to or saw there were very well behaved. Same with the Port people. Pre-game, I thought was once again very good. I didn't think there was a problem there. What was the other question?
Was there one change you'd like to see?
Honestly, couldn't tell you. No idea.
No? Did you like the Roger James kicking the goal?
Oh
the
yeah,
game?
actually, that's one thing I should say. I'm actually starting to like that quite a bit. I don't know. Some people probably think it's a bit lame, but it's just a nice way to honour past greats of our club, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea. I don't mind.
Yeah.
It's reminiscent of the the first pitch in baseball, and
absolutely.
Americans seem to like that. I don't see there's any problem with it. It might be a little bit kitschy, but who cares? It's something that probably not many other AFL teams have done before. So breaking new ground again.
Yeah.
So
The only change I'd like to see is the game day village get even bigger.
even bigger.
'Cause I went there two and a half hours before the game, and it was packed.
Yeah, it was cramped,
Absolutely
wasn't
jam
it?
packed.
I got there about 5:30, and it was hard to move. It was, it is excellent. It's great to see so many people are embracing it, and as Dave Banner said from Port Adelaide, that all the proceeds go back to the footy club. So we should be supporting the footy club as much as we can, and they're supporting us and our show with the vouchers. So we've got to remember to get on board with the footy club. Well, what about Nathan Krakouer, boys? Is he the real deal?
The crack attack, yes, I reckon he is.
Yeah.
The big question is, does he stay in the side when Impey's back? Or does Impey lose his spot?
Well,
At the moment.
Or do we pick both?
I don't know. Can we
play
pick
Impey up
both?
forward?
I don't know. It's a tough one for me. That's kind of leads into something that I wanted to ask. Logistically, how do we keep Krakouer in the side when Frampton's off the long-term injury list?
He's in now. Doesn't matter. He stays on the list.
Oh, does he?
I thought so. Doesn't he?
No, I don't think that's how it works, Rick. If he stays on the list, then Frampton can't play, because Frampton can't play a game until he's off the long-term injury list. So
Watch out,
as
Billy.
soon as he is off the long-term injury list, then Krakouer's back on the rookie list.
Looks like we might have to
So someone needs to
Break.
take a short straw and do their hamstring or something.
break their ankle or something like that. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Basically, I think it's just one of those unfortunate situations, and we've seen it in the past. I think Damien Peveril for Essendon, I think he played the first 10 games of his first season and was an absolute revelation for the Bombers. But then he couldn't play again for the rest of the year because he had to go back on the rookie list, and no one else got injured for the Bombers, so he missed out and then just had to bide his time until the next season when he was upgraded.
Or I swear you could stay on there. Is there no cut-off clause or something like that, or it doesn't matter at any time?
It's a different rule. There was a rule halfway through a season where you could add a rookie list player, but I'm not sure that that exists anymore.
No, I don't think it.
And of course, if you're playing a player down on your squad, which we have done in the past, you can obviously free upgrade a player to the senior list, but I don't think we're in that situation. I think it's purely down to injuries at the moment. So as soon as Frampton's ready to play, I think Krakouer's going to be a little bit unlucky. But
Do you think maybe that's a rule change the AFL should look at then, that you can have, say, one mid-year rookie upgrade?
I
don't think it would be a bad idea.
Cancelling the rookie list altogether and just having a bigger squad.
Yeah, I don't really see the point of the rookie list, to be honest with you.
I think it's just there so that teams can pay a few players a little bit less money.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It couldn't be that much of a saving, really. I don't know. Either way, I'd just like to be able to see Krakouer play more.
Yeah. He was
He's
fantastic. Moving back,
silky.
just one question, Rick. Back to the crowd. I thought the crowd was awesome, except behind me at the game, behind the locker room, there was a North Melbourne and Central supporter. Don't know why he decided to turn up to the game, but his sole reason for being there was to yell at Josh Gibson every 5 seconds. You're a mug, Gibson. Get off the ground, Gibson. You're an absolute mug. All sorts of colourful language. And he said, you're just lucky your mate David Hale's not here either, otherwise I'd be giving him a mouthful as well. And this went on the entire game. Literally every 10 seconds the entire game. And of course Gibson had something ridiculous like 30 disposals. So every time he went near it, this guy's yelling out at the top of his voice. It was fantastic.
That's very strange.
It was really bizarre. I'm not sure if if Gibbo had slept with his wife or something, or whether he didn't like whether he
Something must
didn't
have
like
gone there.
the fact that he was an ex-North Melbourne supporter, but of course, I think he was a Central supporter because every time Gunston went near the bowl, he let out this huge Centrals at the top of his
So, obviously, Macca, you want to bring in a muzzle policy for certain aspects of the crowd.
As I said earlier, just no morons. I mean,
No morons.
Come on. No, look, he was enjoyable. It was a good laugh, I have to say.
And
Got a bit tiresome sometimes, but the Hawthorn supporters near us were having a bit of a laugh about it as well.
Cheer, cheer the black and the white. Honour the Magpies day and by night. Live that Lord.
That's it. Let's move on and talk about the SANFL. Port played Norwood on Friday night. Wasn't that much of a happy result. We lost by 21 points. 5 goals 5 to 7 goals 14 in what was close to monsoonal weather there for a while. We had no multiple goal scorers. What did you guys think about this game? It was a bit of a disappointment.
I was there, and the weather was absolutely atrocious, I have to say. We got off to a pretty good start. Then it just started raining, and we couldn't run, we couldn't kick. We just couldn't use the ball nicely. Then when the rain cleared up, for some reason, Norwood were all over us. I don't know, we probably only had 3 or 4 players that played well, if that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was just
Yeah, I counted about
poor
that.
showing.
we seem to lack a lot of impact around the ball. I thought outside of Sam Gray, Robbie Young, we sort of lacked a little bit there.
Well, I don't know. The interesting thing is that we drew equal on the clearances after, like in the stats. I don't know. I don't know if it's a statistical thing or whether it's just we suck against Norwood, especially in that kind of weather. I don't know. We just didn't really get going at all in the second half.
We were winning the hard bowl. As you said, we drew equal in the clearances, but we just lacked that sort of uncontested run, and we just couldn't get any sort of clear bowl. Every time we kicked it to someone, they had 3 Nord players near them, and that's what I was talking about before with my hate, was that we just really struggled against their contested, pressure style of game plan. And as soon as sort of Norwood slowly started to get back on top when the heavens opened, we just had no answer for what they were trying to do, and we couldn't handle the defensive structures and pressure from Norwood. They just constantly got numbers around the bowl, and I think we did lack depth in that midfield, and only really sort of Gray, Summerton and Sharrod looked any good through the middle there, and we're probably too tall up forward on the night as well, given that which obviously you can't help when it decides to drop about 5 inches of water in the space of 20 minutes, but. And also, I think our best player, Paul Stewart, going off in the first minute thanks to Tommy Logan, probably had a bit of an impact as well.
Yeah. He's we've got some tough players, don't we? Yeah,
Courageous.
One person
But then
that I do.
you look, I mean, Mason Shaw, I'm pretty sure we benched Mason Shaw for the whole second half. I didn't see him after half-time at all, so obviously we were sort of slowly bringing him back into it.
Yeah, I don't recall seeing him for much of the second half, if any. I think he only had 1 touch and some tackles. But one player that I do want to make mention of is Sam Russell. I thought he was excellent on Simon Phillips.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was a bit of a breakout game for Sammy Russell, I think. And I'd love to see him get more time and maybe an extra year on the list just to see what he can do. I think he's got a lot of talent. He's a really good size. He's quite quick, great defensively. Uses the ball really well. Maybe he could be our next tagger post Kane Corns.
Yeah, I got out to quite a few Maggie's games last year, and many people didn't see anything in Sam Russell. But I mean, he'd come off like an 8 or 9 week hamstring injury, and I do seem to remember making the call that he's pretty much just a smaller version of Tom Jonas, at least in his game style, and either sort of a tagging role or a shutdown job on a small is the way that we should be using him. I don't know. I think there's plenty to work with there.
Yeah, he didn't have a great year last year, but as you said, I think he missed about 3 months with injury there and didn't have much of a pre-season, and I think he only made the draft by 2 or 3 days. So He was probably the youngest player in the AFL system last year, and he's improved out of sight so far this year. His first couple of games have been fantastic, and he's got a lot of talent, and hopefully we give him a bit more time to see if he can develop. I thought Sammy Gray was probably our best player. He was certainly our most consistent four-quarter player.
Yeah.
And the conditions really suited his style of play. I thought Carl Amon was pretty good on the night. Lewis Sharrod, I thought, had a really good game. A couple of iffy sort of decisions here and there, but his ability to get first hands on the ball at the stoppage was fantastic. And I thought Burn Jones had a pretty solid game again.
And John Bradshaw pointed out Clory tag Panos. Did that go down well?
It did. Panos didn't have as much of an impact as he normally does, and certainly not around the midfield. And I think Panos won the Jack Odie medal last year, so he was well down on his normal output.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was a pretty bloody average team performance, but I think there were some good individual things to take away from the game, at least.
Yep. Johann Wagner, the last 2 weeks, he's really struggled to get a kick. Only the 3 kicks this week. He just managed the I think 4 handballs last week. Do you think he's maybe a little bit tired from his first AFL pre-season?
No.
I don't want to write him off, but considering he got drafted from a TV show, I think it's fair enough to question whether he really actually has the talent or not.
Yeah. Well, he did play SANFL last year for Centrals, and I thought he had a really good round 2 game where he kicked a couple of goals, but he just hasn't got near it the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll see as the season goes on.
Well, that's been my concern since the start. Is he going to get enough ball? So that's going to be the challenge for him.
Well, look, just very quickly, what did you think of the rest of the AFL round?
The Demons!
The Demons.
Told you they would win.
You did.
Yes. The Demons!
I'm going to go to the other end of the round and say, wow, at the Bulldogs' effort. They're really a surprise this year. I think they were widely tipped to be sort of wooden spooners or not far off it, and they've come out 3-1 and smashed Adelaide, so good on them.
No.
Yes. And I want to mention GWS for thrashing Gold Coast, and didn't look likely a year ago, but GWS has gone well past Gold Coast at the moment, and they seem to have a bit more of a well-rounded list, and a lot of their players, a lot of their sort of players from their original squad are really starting to reach their potential.
Yeah,
it just shows the footy worm turns very quickly too, doesn't it? So it's just one of those things, yeah. And how could Collingwood? How could you pick Collingwood to get up over Essendon? I mean, really? It was just
maybe we're overrating Essendon at the moment.
Well, they knocked off Hawthorn, and they've had a couple of good wins. It was just, or are we underestimating Collingwood?
I don't know.
A little bit of both, but
I think the Essendon Collingwood Anzac Day games kind of similar to the showdown most years, where prior form kind of goes out the window. It's just a different type of game usually, but yeah, it was a bit odd.
I was just going to say, and Freo looks like the team to beat, don't they? They're looking pretty good. Yeah, so already looking forward to round 23. It'll be the game for top spot.
Like they're, they certainly look like the team that might run away with the minor premiership at the moment. So they're in good form. I didn't really expect them to have this sort of start to the season. So
no,
neither did I.
Oh well, hopefully it falls over for them soon.
All right, guys, MrSpeaker, thanks for coming on, buddy.
Not a problem. Thank you for having me, boys.
No doubt we'll hear from you soon.
Yeah, probably.
And Rick, as always, mate.
Yes, I'm glad you weren't stuck with me this week, Macca.
No, I'll be stuck with you again on Thursday though, so that's all right.
Previewing the big game, and talk about random crazy. We're going to try our first pre and post game live show on Sunday for the showdown. hopefully we can implement better than Macca's attempt of the live caller tonight with the pause and hanging up on the call, because that could be a bit of disaster. But so stay tuned for that, people. We that should be
Look, it's
fun.
all trial and error, isn't it, Rick?
It is all trial and error, and I'm looking forward to this first live show. Crazy Big Al's going to join me, so I'm sure he's going to rev everybody up, and we got Matt Sullivan coming on too, so Solstice. So we're going to be looking for a few people to call us in. Otherwise, it could be a bit of tumbleweeds and crickets with the three of us just chatting pre-game for half an hour. So make sure people get their calling motions in action.
Good stuff.
Alrighty.
All right, boys.
Ciao.
Cheers.
Can't Port Adelaide.
Power!
I don't care.
Step up on the plate, Dermot.
Every kid in the backyard with the big trees lined up with the footy before Mum calls you in for dinner. The shot for goal after the siren to win it. Jared Polton, your time has come. Drop punt. Your time has come.
What a win!